Grace be unto you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Today is the fourth Sunday in Lent. It has lots of names. It can be called Laetare Sunday because that is the first word of the introit. Today, rejoice. Latin is Laetare. It's also called Mothering Sunday. It happens to be actually in England. It is Mother's Day today. This is the day in England. I mean, if you're a Christian in England, which I don't know if there are any left in the Church of England today, right? This is the day you go to the church where you were baptized, to the mother church for you. And also it's Mother's Day to remember your own mother. This is the Sunday, you probably remember, this is the Sunday where you get to wear rose-colored vestments 2 times during the year. You could wear pink today. We don't have any pink ones, which is just fine with me. It's also called Mid-Lent, Mid-Lent Sunday, because it is exactly in the middle of the period from the first Sunday all the way to Pascha, the Sunday that's in the middle. It would have been a perfect Sunday to give us this day our daily bread, because the lesson is about feeding of the 5,000. On the cover of your bulletin, there's a mosaic. It's a Byzantine mosaic from the 4th century. It's under the altar in a church in Tabga, which is Arabic. It's an Arabic version of the Greek name of the village, which is Heptapgon. And it's a beautiful church. It's twice in recent years it has been attacked and burned by Jewish settlers. Want to ask, of course, it commemorates the feeding of the 5,000. There were 2 fish and 5 loaves. Why are there only 4 loaves in the basket? Anybody have a reason why they think? Yes?
Was part of it the harvest tide? Was it set aside for, the offerings?
Kind of, yeah.
The 5th one's on the altar.
Yes, the 5th one is on the altar, the bread for the Eucharist. It's a very lovely church. It's a Benedictine, I believe, or Dominican. I think it may be Dominican. But anyway, that's not the way it worked out. Today, the phrase from the Lord's Prayer is, forgive us our debts as we forgive those, our debtors, or forgive those who trespass against us. Forgiveness is a huge issue for Christianity. It's a huge issue for society. We have a hard time forgiving. When we see someone engage in the act of forgiveness, it's almost shocking to us, You think of the Amish families that went to the homes after the school had been attacked and children were killed. They went to the homes of the parents of the perpetrator to express forgiveness for them. You think of the Pope John Paul II, forgiving the one who tried to assassinate him. Warren Farha, who was the proprietor of 8 Day Books, when his wife was killed, he went and when they had the victim responses, or whatever you call them, he went and pleaded for mercy for the one who had killed his wife. These examples of the ability to rise up over circumstances and to struggle to accept those who have hurt us, violated us, disrespected us, they're almost shocking, you know. Today, most of these victim statements, even if you kill the person, the criminal, if he's put to death, it's not good enough. There is a suggestion about this phrase in the Lord's Prayer, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. It's kind of an example of quid pro quo, something for something. It sounds on the surface quite transactional. If I forgive other people, then I want you to forgive me. It's kind of the way it sounds to most people. It's almost an example of bargaining with God. Hey, I got a deal for you. If you forgive me, I'll forgive those other people. It's hard to translate. From Greek into English in our Bibles, particularly when you're using a technique of translating, which is you're going to try to go word for word, one Greek word for one English word. You get a very stilted translation. It might be accurate, but it may not mean very much. So I want to suggest to you two possible ways of looking at, of translating this phrase, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, or forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. The Matthew phrase, which is the debtor version, you could say it was forgive us our debts as we have already done with others. That's a little different. It's not forgive us and then we'll forgive them. It's forgive us as we have already done this with others. We have forgiven them. The other version, which is found in Luke of this prayer, could be translated, Father, forgive us while we at the same time are forgiving others. So really, if it's really strict translation of the phrase, it isn't this deal. It's something a little different. It's about who we are and what we have received and how that shapes how we give to other people. A good example that can help us understand the depth of this petition is found in a parable that Jesus told. It's contained in Matthew, the 18th chapter, and it's the parable of the evil servant. Peter had come to Jesus and had asked a really important question. It's a question that we, in one form or another, may have asked ourselves or asked God on occasion. Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? You know? Up to 7 times? You know? And Jesus said, I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. Which is a perfect number. It's not actually the amount. He's trying to say you forgive endlessly. And so he says, therefore the kingdom of heaven is like a certain king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. So this is the connection. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. So it's an economic metaphor. This king wanted to settle economic accounts with his servants. And when he had begun to settle the accounts, one was brought to him who owed him 10,000 talents. But as he was not able to pay, The king commanded that he be sold with his wife and children and all that he had, and the payment be made. The servant fell down before him, saying, Master, have patience with me, and I will pay you everything. Then the master of that servant was moved with compassion, released him, and forgave him the debt. Then the servant went out and found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii. It's kind of like this servant owed $10,000. He goes to somebody who owes him $10. He laid hands on him and took him by the throat, and he said, Pay me what you owe me. So his fellow servant fell down at his feet and begged him, saying, Have patience with me, and I will pay you all. Same exact thing that he had said to the king. And he would not, but he went and he threw him into prison till he should pay the debt. So when his fellow servants saw what he had done, they were very grieved, and they came and told the master all that he had done. And then the master, after he had called him, said to him, You wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt because you begged me. Should you not also have had compassion on your fellow servant, just as I had pity on you? The master was angry. He delivered him to the torturers until he should pay all that was due to him. So my heavenly Father also will do to you if each of you, from his heart, does not forgive his brother his trespasses. That's kind of an unpacking of this petition. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. We are, in the process, each of us are in the process of becoming more like God. We're striving to look more like God. That's the whole process of theosis. We are made in the image of God, and now we're working toward trying to make it real by really looking the way God looks, behaving like God behaves, doing things that God does, being godly. And one of the key things that God does for us is that he forgives us. Not 7 times, not 70 times 7, not 7,000 times 7,000. He forgives us infinitely because he loves us. And the message of this petition, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, or forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. The message is, we have been forgiven. And so we are now obligated, in a way, to forgive others the same that we have received from God. Now, forgiveness is not easy. Sometimes we say, if the person asks for forgiveness and makes amends to me, then I'll forgive them. If they don't, I'm not going to do that. Or I'll forgive them, which means kind of like I'll continue on kind of like this didn't happen, but I'm not going to forget. It's going to be an overarching reality in my relationship with this person forever. I'll forgive them, I'll let on that it's okay, but I'm not going to forget. So we have that one. Well, there's nothing in here about forgiving them if they ask for forgiveness. There's nothing that says that we're supposed to forgive them, but don't forget. Always hold it against them. Always keep it in reserve. You can always drag it out, at the appropriate moment. Yeah, but you remember what you did in 1998, you know? Keep it in reserve for an emergency situation. You know, we're supposed to forgive. There's another thing that Jesus told us. He said that if you go to the temple and you're going to make an offering, and you remember that you have a problem between the relationship between you and a brother, that is a person that's part of your community. Yeah, leave the gift. That's important, you know. If you need to go do this, don't take your pledge envelope with you with your gift for today. Leave it, you know, and then go and make amends, and then come back and offer the gift. It's essential that we make relationships with other people primary. This is not a game that we're involved in, you know, the liturgical game. You know, I make the cross perfect. I know all the fast days, all the feast days. I fast. I do everything. I follow the calendar perfectly. You know, I do all this. It's about my relationship with God, and it's how that relationship, which is a relationship of forgiveness, how that relationship affects how I relate to other people. We're kind of in a laboratory in a parish church where we're going to kind of practice at this. We're going to practice living this kingdom ethic of forgiving other people. We're all familiar with the story of the prodigal son. He wants his inheritance right now, and he wants to take it and go off and do his thing, and he does. He goes off and squanders it, and ends up eating with pigs. One day it dawns on him. It says he comes to himself. He comes to himself. This is about the other side of forgiveness. This is the issue of coming to the point where we are willing to request forgiveness from another person. And it's important. So it says he comes to himself. He wakes up. He realizes, ooh, stupid. I've done a stupid thing. And he rehearses very specifically how he is going to address his father. He plans the talk. And I bet you've had this. You've maybe offended or hurt your spouse or a sister or a brother or a relative or your mother or your father, and how you ruminate and you think about, I think the way I'm going to do it is, I think I'll start out by saying, hey, you remember last week when I got angry, you know? You work it out because you want to do it. You get one shot at this, you know, sometimes. And you want to do it right. And so he makes this decision. And as he travels home, he keeps going over it. Now, I wonder if is this really the right way to do it? I have sinned and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. I think that's good. I think that will do the job, you know? And before he is even able to see his father's house, his father sees way down the road this prodigal son coming to him. And he runs to him and embraces him and forgives him before he's even hardly able to say his little speech that he has worked on. That's the way God is. And he's asking us to be this way with one another. That's what we mean when we say, forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive the trespasses of others against us. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about taking the experience of forgiveness that is so beautiful from God and applying it to the relationships with our wife, our husband, our brother, our sister, our co-worker, whatever. to live a life of forgiveness. That's what Lent is all about, is seeking God's forgiveness. And one of the best ways to manifest the awareness that we have been forgiven is to practice forgiveness with those who have wronged us. May God give us the grace to be forgiving people.
I believe in one God,